You're about to enter a place, not of effort, but of abandonment. A place where projects are started with enthusiasm, plans are made with confidence, and then mysteriously left unfinished. These two individuals believe they're almost done, but almost lives at 80%. And 80% is where results go to die. You're about to witness what happens when no one finishes the last 20%. Here in the Twilight Zone.
Today we're going to be talking about how if everybody just finished every task they started, how much better the world would be. It's going to be a good episode. Check it out.
So today we're going to be talking about how important it is finishing what you start and how much better your life would be and everyone around your life would be if you just did the thing. Check it out.
Welcome to the hunting ground, where business gets real. This is Into the Lion's Den, where we build smarter, lead harder, and protect what matters most. With your host, Christian Griffith. Let's get to work.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Into the Lion's Den with your co-hosts, Mr. JD Stevens, Captain Cool Backwards Hat.
I'm always captain.
And as always, Christian Griffith, owner of Pride Roofing Construction. This episode is brought to you by LVL Creative Studios and Pride Roofing and Construction.
It's been a while since we made that joke.
Yeah, well, I was getting a little old, but I thought I'd bring it back. It's an oldie but a goodie. But no, seriously though, JD makes great lion noises when he's off camera. He just won't do it on camera, so.
I don't ever do it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Lions are cool. Everybody knows it. Everybody else that thinks they're not can shut up. So, I'm just anyways, as the cold open described with JD, today we're talking about finishing the damn thing, right? That's the title. And we're going to talk about why most people make it to around 80%, why that's the real crux, why that's like the plateau that most people make it to, and why it's so important to get to the finish line. Right.
Yeah, the thing that I want to jump in on, like, as we get started, if this is your first time tuning in with us, we're talking about, all these different things in our weekly podcast, but we're just people. Mm-hmm. I don't think either of us consider ourselves like the end all be all of those things. Mm-hmm. We talk about things that are important to us, mm-hmm. or things that we've ran across in personal life, recent. So if you're jumping in, we want you involved in the conversation because that's why we're here. Mm-hmm. Is we're guys talking about life, explaining how we're going through life and the things we see, mm-hmm. and trying to make the people around us better. Mm-hmm. So the reason this one came up is it's something that I am incredibly guilty of. So, just as a convicting point of, why this episode? Why would you guys want to talk about just finishing the damn thing? I am the king of 80%. Which
You've done some self-reflection here, JD. It sounds like
I sure have.
So you've been listening to the podcast and what we're encouraging people to do. I dig that. All right, full circle.
Always bringing it back around. Yeah. But we've heard, and I'm sure that if we talk about reviews and things like that, there's definitely been something that has been a recurring theme, and that's if I ask JD to do something, it gets done eventually. It's not that it doesn't get done, it's that it gets done eventually. Which, in a business setting, or even in your personal life, I can talk about laundry. I'm a 12 loads person. I hate it so much. And then I hate it more, which just,
Because you ruined an entire day doing laundry.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things of, why are we talking about this? Why this is important? Mm-hmm. It's also, we're right now, when we're shooting this, the end of January. Mm-hmm.
I was that guy to think about that for a second. Yeah, end of January.
It's crazy to think about. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it's stopped moving.
Fastest, slowest month ever.
Yeah. It's very busy so far, and which is exciting. But, why now? Why is this important? Mm-hmm. Well, we're also coming up against, most, I don't remember the numbers, don't quote me on these, but it's like 90 ish percent.
90 to, I think what we said in that episode was 93. I believe the statistics said that 93% of people before January is over will fail, give up on their New Year's resolutions, which we gave some guidance on that. You know, don't bite off more than you can chew. Stick to the scripts, find something that's the most important and stick to that, rather than, hey, to this year I'm not gonna smoke anything, I'm not gonna drink anything, I'm not going to eat sugar, I'm gonna never have a slice of bread. You know, maybe just stick to one of them, achieve that, and then add to it once we've gotten a little bit more, you know, mental fortitude and proof of concept, I guess. Yeah.
And that's what I did specifically this year. I took some of the advice that we gave in that podcast, and instead of making it one giant goal, I broke it down. So I have things that kick in every month or every couple of months, instead of it all being right at the start of, I'm going to roll the things I want to accomplish this year, because I know that I tend to peter out about 80%.
Peter out. Yes,
so
I'm an adult, and it still makes me laugh.
I'm not convinced I am. So, an adult. Anyway.
Isn't that weird? Okay, so a sidebar for just a second. You know, how old are you now, JD? 37? Oh, Jesus Christ, I thought you were way ahead. I didn't say that. 34. Well, when we were kids, right? You look at people in the ages we are right now, and we thought they had it all figured out, right? And then you get to this
100%.
age, and you're like, when am I going to actually figure it all out?
Right.
It's like, I have kids now, and I'm like, who thought this was a good idea that I should have kids? I haven't even figured out who I want to be when I grow up, you know? So anyway, sidebar. There we are.
I still routinely have the thought of, I need an adult.
Yeah.
Like,
where's my mom? So anyways, back to it.
Yeah. So
We're serious professionals here.
We're something.
Yeah.
Definitely that. Anyway.
I took him on one of these rabbit holes. Let's see if you can weave back.
I can weave back. So we just completed reviews, and we talked about all of those things, all of these kind of things with different people. And in the past and somewhat now, this has been a thing we've noticed.
Yeah, there was a real repeat theme, one of the most dominant repeat themes of all of the reviews and all the metrics really that you can utilize. We have a lot of systems that gather data, and there's a lot of good ways to pull that data together to find, you know, areas of emphasis, areas where we need to either dive into and accelerate growth there, or dive into and fix this hinge point or this hurdle, this obstacle, whatever. But that was one of the biggest themes of the entire review, which through 30 employees or however many we have now, is we've done so much work to this point. Why didn't we finish? And I gave a lot of analogies to people, and it's like when you see your little gauge beeping at you in your car, and you need to get gas, right? That's pretty important, right? So you pull into the next gas station and you pump your gas. But what happens if you drive away after you're done pumping gas? Well, if you drive away instantaneously, what you're going to do is take the whole gas station arm, the little trigger and everything that it's attached to with you, right? So finishing that task is very simple. You pull it out, rack it, twist the cap, close the door, then get in and drive away, right? What we were finding is a lot of people would do about 80% of the work. They spend a lot of time diagnosing a problem or assisting their team member or whatever. And then they completely fail to either transition to a new status. So it's recruiting new resources in, like through our CRM, that's different for everybody. Or they forget to inform the person that they finished the task, or they forget to give directives on how this person can utilize the work that they just did and carry that so that they're more, quicker to be able to resolve whatever this problem is or serve their client or whatever. We found that there was a lot of work completed, but a lot of the time it was only 80%, which is, it's frustrating. It's a very frustrating thing. And I mean, I know everybody that's watching this can understand from a personal perspective. This is something that always frustrated me in my childhood was that, if my dad promised me something I almost always thought that he was lying to me when he said, yes, I'll do that. And it wasn't that he was lying. He did a lot of work towards it. But what he would do is he'd finish about 80% of the task, and then he'd start another task, do about 80%, 80%, 80%, 80%. And eventually it's like there's 100 open tasks. A lot of work's been done, but none of them were concluded. We didn't get to close the chapter on that piece and move to the next one. It's not no indictment on him. He had a lot of things going on, but it changes your perspective of people's value. It changes your perspective of their quality and their position. It changes your perspective on, like, for me, I take that extreme ownership position. It's like, if my guys are only completing 80% of the task, am I even good enough to teach them how, like, to be in charge of them, right? How have I set this in this course in motion? Why is it that this is kind of a repeat theme? So we've had to do a lot of, let's reestablish what our baseline is, understand what our roles and responsibilities are, and then establish a boundary system where it's like, you cross these boundaries, here's your repercussion or reward, right? Take the emotions out of it and work on it purely based off of, are you finishing these tasks? Are you finishing these tasks on the expected timeline, or are you not, right?
Wait, we put boundaries in place?
Yeah, it's not the wild, wild west, although there's a lot of people in here who wish it was. All right. I even had this conversation with you the other night. It's like, God, I wish I didn't have so many steps I put into these systems, because now I have to follow the same steps, because it takes all this extra time. But the extra time, the slow down to speed up conversation is really true. If you spend enough time to not only complete the task to fruition, to the finish line, whatever, and then you take that extra step to deliver the correct directive in the correct way, you've slowed down this part of the process, but you've accelerated every part of the process afterwards, right? You probably never have to do this again because you've given guidance. You actually turn this into a learning lesson, right? And then everybody after that knows how to pick up the baton, which direction they're running on the track, which lane they're supposed to be running in, and where the finish line is, right?
Yeah, and we see this in every part of life. Of, you know, you can probably speak more to the sports side of things than I can, but I can speak a lot to, like, the creative side of things, of, like, the 80%. The reason that it gets dropped off a lot of times is it's the detail work.
Mm-hmm. Devil's in the details, my friend.
And the details can either be the hardest, the most time consuming, the fill in whatever adjective you want here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, because I acted a lot in high school, so I can speak very specifically from that. But the detail work is the lines. The fun part is actually getting up there and doing and being on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I had a ton of fun with that,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to know the lines, otherwise it falls apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's as simple as, this person across from me doesn't know what they're going to say,
Mm-hmm.
and I know the cue word off of the last word of their line,
Mm-hmm.
because that's my job,
Mm-hmm.
is to know that. And so when you don't have that piece of it, the whole thing falls apart. So, like, they can be great at the other 80%,
Mm-hmm.
but the detail, the 20% that they don't have down,
Mm-hmm.
can be incredibly frustrating. And that 20% can fall anywhere inside of the
Mm-hmm.
task.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, like, they did these 3 things on either side of the task, but didn't complete the middle of the task, it's still not done.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like, yeah, you did 80% of it, but at the same time, we didn't.
Unfortunately, now that renders that 80% useless.
Yeah.
Right. And speaking from an athletic perspective, about 80% of athletics happen on the basketball court, in the wrestling room, on the football field, whatever your sport of choice is, right? Pick your poison. But the other 20% is what you do at home, right? It's like, are you going to bed on time? Are you eating things that are going to fuel your body? Or are you not? Are you, actually studying so that you have the grades that are going to allow you to participate,
Eligibility.
right? All of those things sometimes fall to the wayside, and let's just call it eating incorrectly. As a wrestler, you eat the wrong fuel, and you go to a tournament where you have to wrestle 7 matches in a day. You're not going to make it through the first match, right? You're going to get your ass handed to you because you're sluggish, you're slow, your reaction time is not what it should be. You're not thinking clearly because you decided to eat bonbons instead of carrots. It's all of it plays into the performance, right? And so if you want to have the fun part, stand on the stage and actually produce, feel what it's like to be a thespian, to be an actor, to control a crowd and their emotions, you have to do the legwork, right? You have to do the extracurricular part of this stuff. You have to go to bed on time. You have to choose not to go to the party, right? And that's the hard part for people to understand. So when you say the devil's in details, it's usually details that are skipped because details are monotonous. Details require discipline. Details are not nearly as much fun as the performance is. So, right? It's a difficult task, but ultimately, if you can discipline your mind enough to stay consistent, this is my goal. In order to achieve this goal, I've got to not just meet, level number 8. I've got to go to level number 10. You can go out there and you can crush it. You can witness and experience what it's like that your hard work turns into this result. If you decide that that's not worth it, just expect to have a hard life, right? Expect to not be on the podium. Expect to not to be the lead actor. Expect not to be promoted. Right? It doesn't really matter which part of life it is. If you're incapable of finishing a task, it doesn't matter how fast you're running. You're running in the wrong direction.
And so as management, when I relate this back to like work, not necessarily just here, but in general, the other thing with doing things 80% that I've found is, from my team is you complicate it for yourself. Of like, if I go back to when I worked with shoes, I had developed a system of how we price, like unload the shipment, how we price, all those things. So that it was simple because I'm a don't touch stuff multiple times if we don't have to person.
Yeah, double efforts are a waste of time and money.
Yeah. So I was like, everyone gets to do the fun part of like wandering around and, talking. It was retail. Let's just be totally real. That's what we do when you're just out of high school. But I wanted to get to that part as quick as possible. And so I was very particular about how we did things. And then I went to a location that they weren't doing these things in. So they were, well, there's a whole lot that goes on with that store. But when I think about it, like the one that made me like flip my lid was I came in one day and they had completely refilled the store, emptied, done the shipment, had the shipment put away, had completely refilled, and then they were pricing everything in the shelf after it's been organized into the correct size runs and all those kind of things. And if you've ever been in a shoe store, it's one shoe here, one shoe there, one shoe here. So now you had to go row by row and identify what shoe had to be repriced. Because I didn't want to do the pricing because it's tedious. Of like, I jumped ahead, I did this part, and I'll go back and do the other part. No big deal. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, wow, this sucks. No wonder JD has us do it the other way. And it's like, yeah, because you just created a ton more work for yourself accidentally or intentionally because you didn't want to do it the way that I said to do it. And we see this, so relating this back to management, we see this when we have, I call them young managers or new managers. New managers are very good about can be very good about here's the directive, this is what we're doing moving forward. They're saying all the right things, but their 80% is, hey, you have to do this or there's repercussions. And then when the repercussions come, they're incapable of dealing out the repercussions. So then what you're talking about doesn't matter because the 20% that you didn't do is the part that matters. And you see this out of, I like to say young managers. You see it more commonly out of young managers. Inexperienced managers is probably a better way to say that. If there's no repercussion for not doing something and you threaten repercussion and then don't do it, I mean, you can probably talk about this with kids.
You've done two very negative things to your lifespan as a manager, right?
Yes.
Number one, people don't take anything you say seriously from that point forward. No. So not only do they not take anything that you have to say serious from that point forward, but they've also understood based off your inaction in repercussion, right, that it's okay to only do 80%, right? So now the new norm is not 100%, it's 80%. So what you're going to get next is 80% of the 80%. And then 80% of that 80%, right? It's going to whittle itself down and you're going to have a very unproductive team. because it's understood. These metrics, these expectations are a suggestion, right? They're not a direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big problem. That's a very hard obstacle to get past.
That's typically how these things evolve,
Mhm.
is the softening of the blow.
Mhm.
Because sometimes we don't want to be the bad guy,
Mhm.
which if you're in leadership, part of leadership is having uncomfortable conversations forever.
Yeah.
Just get real comfortable with that.
Frankly, your job in leadership is you're doing a good job if you're having conversations daily.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're approaching things in real time with real efficacy, the right way. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's all part of leadership, and it's something that leaders have to get. We don't get to go up and be like, "Hey, so I don't want to talk to you about this, but the corporate said I have to." That's a cop out. Don't do that. I used to do it a lot.
I actually just had a conversation with the management team about this
Yep.
directly. I said, please stop putting my name in your mouth. Right. And what I was referring to there was I'm not your scapegoat. Right. Yes, I have established these metrics and these standards and expectations, but you also know what they are. You've assumed the responsibility of delivering the results. And just because I've said, hey, this person is greenlit, right there. And when I say greenlit, that means this person missed metrics long enough that they should not be here any longer. It's your choice now whether you're going to let them go or whether you're going to help them rise to this occasion. You don't sit there and tell them, hey, Christian wants to fire you, but I like you, so I'm going to help you figure this out, right? You just created an unnecessary toxin in them as an employee and also with the rest of the team, because that's going to be known from people talk, right?
Yep.
Everybody knows from that point forward. Christian's an asshole, but this guy's okay. They're going to work with me. I make a mistake, it's going to be all right, And so you're just breeding bad habits.
Well, and then you're also, if you do something like that,
Mhm.
and you've been begging to fire the person,
Mm-hmm.
now you've created a problem with leadership, the people
Mhm.
above you.
Mhm.
Like beyond just the initial problem of, saying, "Oh, this person wants to fire you, but I don't."
Mm-hmm.
But then that gets back to leadership, and they're just like, "Well, but you said you didn't think they were a good fit, and you wanted to get rid of them, and we asked you to give them a little bit more time because we thought maybe it was training."
Mm-hmm.
And now you just copped out on the thing that you've been asking me to do when I finally hit the point of like, hey, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
He can't be here anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you keep him around because it's uncomfortable and you were hoping I would do your job for you.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's part of your job as a manager
Mm-hmm.
is to do those things.
Yeah. And so it's a trap, right? Getting to 80% and finishing there is always a trap. It looks ideal, right? Because you've covered a lot of ground. You have put in a lot of time, repetition, patience, stress, blah, 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 right? And so if we're looking at the analogy of you're climbing a mountain, and I said at the very beginning, it's like a plateau, right? Mountains sometimes have false peaks.
Mm-hmm.
And those false peaks might have a great view. You might think, hey, I've achieved something because I'm at 7,000 foot in elevation. But this mountain is 9,000 feet, right? Do you want to finish or do you not? View is, I guarantee you, better from up on top.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of achievement, a lot of gold, warm feelings inside of yourself of, hey, I can do something bigger than I did today, right? And not everything that we're talking about is climbing a mountain and seeing those views, but it's a trap, right? There's a very few people who love that process of finishing because of the tedious nature of it, right? In our office, really, that's what it is. It's tedious. You now have to log data, and you've got to recruit the resources, and you've got to do the stuff that not everybody understands the full perspective of why it's important. But the way our business works is that, like, if my position is at step number 7, and there are 14 steps, right? I relied on every person before me to finish their task, and every person after me is going to require that I finish my task, right? So therefore, if I give it 80%, I've created the weak link, I've diverted the process, and I've now introduced the ability for this client to not feel the effect of all of our focus, our blood, sweat, tears, constant equity, or sweat equity that we put into it, because their experience is going to be the exact opposite of what we want for them, because we broke the system.
You created the, Back to the Future timeline
of
I changed one thing, and now we're in a completely different timeline, and everything is different.
You ever watch Butterfly Effect, that movie?
I haven't watched it. I've heard good things.
It's actually pretty amazing. It's probably Ashton Kutcher's best thing. I know people have their ideas about him with all of the things in the media, but it's probably his best acting. But it's the truth. Everything that you do in life will have it's the laws of physics, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you're finishing at 80%, the equal and opposite reaction is that you're going to get 80% or less in the value and whatever your result is going to be.
In the return.
Right? The return is not going to be what you're hoping for, right? So it's a trap. Why do you think it is that momentum really dies at that point? What's your perspective?
Something was, I think the thing that I've seen is, it was interesting at the start. This is really fun. This is new. I like these people. It's, any of those things of the novelty wears off of it. Of like, I don't know if this happens with incels quite as much as it does with other things, but like, well, actually, I do know it does, because sometimes you get pushback. That you get to 80%, and then there's something that you need somebody else for to finish your 20%. And you don't get that support. And instead of pushing for the support that you need, you're just like, well, they didn't help, and I'm not really into this anymore. Or maybe you were into it and you didn't get the help, and it's just like, you know what? F that guy. And you pull yourself out of it because it's just like, I don't really want to deal with it. I don't anymore. So I'm not gonna. I see a lot of that of like, well, I asked for something and they didn't respond. Did you follow up again? Now, if you did follow up again 2 or 3 times and they still haven't got it, at that point, then yeah, you have a little bit of ground to stand on of like, I wasn't getting help. I see a lot of that, but then I also just see a lot of like, I want to do something else, or this seemed more interesting, or
I've already given enough.
Yep.
Right, now it's somebody else's turn. Right, but in an organization, on the field, on stage, it doesn't really matter. Everybody's expected to do all the legwork, whether it's glamorous, not glamorous, where it gets applause or doesn't get any applause. If you're missing details, something's going to break, right? We see that a lot, right? So I think that, I don't know the way that we should swing this conversation now that we've talked about these main bullet points, but I think that I should bring up, that half-assedness. I think that maybe we should build into what the response is going to be from the next people downstream.
Sure.
Right. So I'll bring Mr. Trotter back into the conversation. So I think we talked about him like 7 or 8 different times on the podcast, but for 7 or 8 different reasons, all related to the same occurrence. Right. This guy was kind of a hard ass. He was a history teacher in my high school. I think the class I took with him was AP history or something like that. And he wasn't just a history teacher. He wanted you to be able to like articulately, with articulation, I don't know the right way to say that. He wanted you to be able to teach through your writing what you've understood, right? A real core retention principle he was all about was, can you write about this in a way that I can, if I don't know anything about this, understand what you just captured in that textbook and stuff like that.
He wants you to be able to retain it and reteach it.
Right. And I remember one time, I was struggling with the demands of wrestling. I was right in the middle of wrestling season this year. I happened to be far larger than I wanted to be for the weight that class I was at. I was cutting a lot of weight. I had to do extra practices, had to do all kinds of stuff. And I remember very vividly, I put about 80% into a paper, maybe less. Honestly, it was probably less. It was a half-ass paper, very clearly. I turned it into him. And it was different than anything else that I had given to him. He took a liking to me with how much work ethic and stuff that I had put in, how invested I was in the discussions, because we did a lot of round table discussions where it was just purely dialogue from your perspective. stuff like that. And he comes, he said, Christian, I need you to stay after class. I was like, oh, shit, what happened? And he comes over to me and he goes, Christian, is this the best paper you could write? And I was like, well, I mean, I tried. He's like, yeah. And then he asked me, he's like, I didn't ask if you tried. I asked, is it the best paper you can write? And I was like, honestly, no. I have a lot going on and I just didn't give myself enough time. I was just giving excuses, right? And he goes, Christian, this paper is half-assed. And I was like, you're probably right. And he goes, the more important part of this is not that it's half-assed, it's that your name is sitting right here at the top in the header. And he says, is that what you want me to think of you? Do you want me to think that you're a half-assed person who writes half-assed papers, who gives half-assed attempts at everything that they do? And I was like, well, of course not. He's like, your name is the most powerful thing that you have. It's the most important thing that you have. You're given it the day that you're born. It's on your headstone the day that you die. What you do between those dates is what your legacy is. And those words really just kind of blew my mind. It was the first time I saw it. I mean, Instagram wasn't around, and there definitely wasn't, 400,000, inspirational coaches online telling you all the cliche stuff. This is the first time, right?
Coaches.
This is the first time I heard this, and it really just kind of shocked me. And I was like, you're right. I don't ever want to put my name on something that is 100% me, right? And what he did in my brain was he basically made me understand that every time I act, right? Every time, when I say act, I wasn't acting on stage. I'm saying like every time I was in a wrestling room, right? I wanted to give 110% effort, even though that's a fake number according to our CFO. There's no such thing as 110% something, right? I wanted to give 100% effort, right, to what it was, because I wanted to show to the crowd, to my coach, and to myself that I'm capable of giving every ounce of my energy, right? When we started this business, I wanted to make sure everything's got my name on it, right? I want the entire industry, right, to know that Christian is not half-assed. Christian is a full measured man. He's somebody who'll stay late, show up early, he'll focus on the small stuff, and he'll master the mundane. And the proof will be in how they receive us, what our reviews are like, so on and so forth. Right? When I was in college, I made sure that every paper that I turned in was a representation of that name that I put on there. And sometimes I hope that everybody finds a person like Mr. Trotter to say something so eye-opening and just life-changing, I guess. In that instance, I mean, I probably only talked to him for about 3 minutes after class, and it's changed my entire direction of my life from that point forward, right? So I guess maybe that's our position statement for today. It's half measures, 80% of something. It's bullshit. It's not you. It's not 100% your effort. And so if we're really going to get to the crux of this conversation, it's like, do you have wherewithal inside yourself to, whenever you're going to show up to something, you show up 100%. When you show up to work, are you showing up on time, and are you giving dedicated energy 100% of the time? Or are you doom scrolling, right? Are you in the background where nobody can see you, watching Instagram reels and then pretending that you're getting your boxes checked, right? Do some self-analysis. But at the end of the day, quitting at 80% costs you more than just that job or that position on the podium or whatever, fill in the blank, whatever is important to you. It costs you everything. You're now half-assed. That's who you are represented as to the general population. Everybody that you interact with is, this person doesn't finish, this person doesn't have enough wherewithal to give effort, and this person has no discipline. So don't. Right. Do 100%. Don't do less. Right. I said do.
Back to the professional conversation.
Right.
For a professional.
Right. And you can relate this wherever you want to, whatever the viewer is, whatever your perspective in life is. You might be a leader, you might be an employee, you might be a husband, you might be a father. I know for certain that I don't ever want my kids to think that if they ask me to do something, I'm going to go half at it. Right. I don't want my employees to ever think that if they have a request and it's this urgent need, that I'm only going to give them half of myself. Right. And it's a mutually beneficial partnership with an employer to employee, or leader to, subordinate, or whoever you're mentoring and whatever. But at the end of the day, you're going to get what you give. Right. So the world is going to respond to you. If you're giving 80%, you're only going to get 80% or less from everybody else, because they think, if we're not worth your 100%, why the hell would I give you my 100? Yeah. So I guess we should probably talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
We know that the Millennium Falcon is the wrong color here.
I harassed them about that so much when I came in the room because the Millennium Falcon's not black.
Yeah, so it's actually gray. However, this is the dark version. You got Dark Jar Jar Binks up there, which he wouldn't be sitting on top anyways because you're in space, right? But either way, the reason that this is sitting on the table is not just to add to our cool collection of things that we're bringing into the room, but it's to kind of capture visually what 100% of something looks like. This thing is fucking cool, right? It's cool as hell, but I asked Lachlan at the beginning, this was my gift to him for his birthday. I was like, how long did this take you? And he must be a Lego master because this is over 2,000 pieces and it only took him 3 or 4 hours to get it done, right? But imagine if he only put 80% into it. What are you looking at? A lump of shit. You wouldn't even know what it is if you only finish 80% of a Lego, right? You can't actually admire. There's no cathartic feeling, right? There's nothing there. It's just a lump of stuff built together. And you're like, huh, okay, so this guy can't figure anything out. I don't know what it is. Get this shit off my table, right? So it probably will not sit here for forever, but I thought we should acknowledge this. Lachlan thought this was a great visual representation of finishing something 100%, right? Lego masters out there, maybe you can do it in 2 hours. Me, this thing would have taken me 10, 12, 15 hours. But I guarantee you if I started it, I would have finished it because I wanted to see the product of my work.
I mean, you also have 3 kids running around.
Yeah, we got broke 4 or 5 times through the process.
Exactly.
I would have wanted to get my son involved and then been like, it's the wrong spot, and I had to fix everything 3 or 4 different times. But either way, yeah, that's why you've got the dark version of the Millennium Falcon sitting on the table here.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. It is wrong. Yeah, we know. So you can snip it that wherever you want to. But.
What you're explaining of like those people that point out when you're being half-assed or those, those, it's good to have people that are comfortable with calling you out like that. You don't, if you develop that reputation, it's hard to get rid of. It's very difficult to get rid of.
The common thought on reputation is it takes you 20 years to build a reputation, 20 seconds to ruin it.
Yep.
That's a hard pill for everybody to swallow. It takes you a long time to build something worthwhile. It's very easy to break it.
Sure is.
Right. Didn't mean to jump in on your thought there, but
you're good.
But ultimately, that's how the world responds to you, right? You give in roofing and construction, you decide, I don't want to go that extra measure, right? You find out there's something else wrong with the project, and you cover it over. You're like, it looks fine. It's going to pass code because we can help the code enforcement officer dodge this section of the roof so I don't fall through that hole I left underneath of those shingles or whatever. It's only going to go so far. The second you're found out, your organization, your reputation, everything that you've ever built is now summarized to that one occurrence. These people cover up their tracks. These people don't finish what they start. They don't stand behind their work, so on and so forth. Yes, the extra 20% is difficult. Yes, it's monotonous. It's repetitive. It's not always glamorous. But if you don't finish it, expect to be returned by the universe something equally or even more shitty.
Yeah, it's unfun when you're dealing with the repercussions of like I can talk very specifically of similar like that repercussion that we're talking about of like I did a similar type thing on a paper when I was in high school, and it was 80% done. I struggled in English all 4 years. So yeah, real good at math too.
Struggle at math, dude.
Yeah. Now I do finances. Anyway, but
you didn't hear that.
I actually worked really hard on this paper. It was, in my opinion, probably the best one I had written to that point. And I worked really diligently on it. But I missed the most important part, which is citing your sources. Which is
tedious,
the most important part.
Time-consuming, awful.
And I turned it in, and I'm lucky that the student body the head of the student body and then the teacher, so Coach Holmes and Mrs. Colgate, they, I had to have a meeting, and it was kind of we were going into Christmas break, and it was definitely like a come to Jesus, like, so you have until you come back from Christmas break so that we don't expel you for plagiarism. Because I had half-assed the citations. I don't think they would have actually expelled me, but it was supposed to hurt, and it was supposed to be scary.
Pain is a good teacher.
Yeah, and
Fear
they were just
is a good teacher.
fear is a good teacher, and they had that conversation with me of like, here's how it is, and then if you do these things, great, and get this she goes, this was over a B paper for you. This was like a B plus, whatever it was. For me, that was really good because I struggled with English because I didn't like to do the tedious things. That's really the only reason. And she's like, but now the highest grade you can get if you get everything else perfect is a 70. And our school 70 that was the lowest grade you could get before it was considered failing. She's like, so that because you chose to half-ass this, you now only get to earn if you nail it, you fix everything, get all that, like, you get 100%, which this paper is not 100% if we ignore the citations. It's not 100% paper. She's like, the best grade you can get is a 70. And this is worth, I want to say it was like 20 or 25% of my grade.
Damn. Heavy duty stuff.
So it was just like, you have to get a 70 on this paper to pass the semester.
Otherwise, you forfeit a year of your life. So you going back and doing
I
it over
forfeited
again.
a year of my life.
Yeah.
That was the last time I ever did it. But I did forfeit a year of my life because I, even after I fixed everything, and I was given a lot of credit because I fixed a lot of those things, it wasn't enough because I needed, at that time, I think I needed like to score at least a 75 on the paper. And so I knew that even going into break, that like, yeah, even if I totally nail this, unless I do really well in the final, I'm done. Like, I failed the semester. And that's where but it took me a long time to recover from that with that teacher. She ended up being one of my favorite people and pushed me to be better all the time. I actually really respect her, but it took me a long time to rebuild my reputation with her.
No, you just hit a really solid point that we've missed for the whole conversation, which is like, we made this sound like, it's end all be all, right? All of us have made mistakes, right? Sometimes we did something half-assed, right? And it comes back to bite you in the ass. But you can always fight back. But I think the more important part of that is, yes, there is room to fight back, right? People are pretty reasonable. A lot of us have Dory syndrome, eventually forget about certain things, right? Whatever. But think about how much more effort you have to do to bounce back.
It was awful.
If it takes you 20 years to build a reputation, you ruin it in 20 seconds, you got 20 more years to build back to where you already were, right? That's a lot of wasted energy. Just do the damn thing.
And then there's always still the chip. Even if you completely repair your reputation, at certain points, it's still going to be in the back of their mind. Of, I like working with him. I know that he's not that way anymore, but there's always going to be the little part of him of like, yeah, but the one time I really needed them, that can be that. Because forgive and forget's not always a real thing. I wish it was more, but it's not always.
And I mean, sometimes they're small things, which is why people think it's okay to take a sidestep to it and stuff like that. But sometimes the small things are the most important in relationships, right? And I think the goal of this conversation is just give 100%, right? Your relationships, love your people 100%. Give them everything that you can. Show them your best foot forward in all circumstances. Be the support you can be. Be the protector you can be. Whatever it is, do it 100%. If you're going to be a leader, lead 100% of the time. Finish the task. Give the directives. Open the opportunity for learning lessons and train your people, grow your people, and watch them fly, right? If you're on the field, give it 100% on and off the field. Eat right. Train right. watch your habits, right? And present yourself as a poised and professional and somebody dedicated and motivated towards this thing. And people will ultimately flock to you and assist you. When you start to fade at 20%, you're going to have to rely on the people that have supported you to this point to support you through that last 20%. You're not going to have any of those people if you keep making this choice and you keep stepping back when you get to 80% or 50% or wherever your cutoff is, right? No half-built habits, no half-built measures, right? If you're going to do it 100%.
Say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest, right? Do it 100%. So, yeah, I guess that final line, you instigated it, but it was written in here. Unfinished work always comes back to be more expensive.
Sure does.
Whether that's time, whether that's money, whether it's all of it and combined, it's always more expensive to repair afterwards than it would be to just finish the damn thing. All right.
Or wildly inconvenient.
Wildly inconvenient, yeah. So, I think that's probably a good finishing spot for the conversation. So obviously we talked about a lot, but it all boils down to what I just finished it off with, which is if you're going to choose to do something, do it 100%. People rely on you. People are watching you. People will support you, but they're only going to support you as much as you're able to give that effort. So you want 100% life, give 100% effort. Right. So that's it for today's episode of Into the Lion's Den. Please like and subscribe, engage in the content, ask us questions. If you'd like to be on the podcast, just drop us a line and we'll get you on here. We'll have a discussion. If you'd like to expand on any of these topics, or if we missed a beat, I like feedback. Good, bad, ugly. We want to know what we could do better to provide good information to the community, to our watchers, to our listeners. And let's just work together. Be better every single day. Give it 100% and watch the world return it to you. That's it. Catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.